Welcome into another episode of Offensively Accurate. This is going to be episode number 27. Forgive me, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. The CPU is a little high on the computer, so hopefully I'm not having too many issues. I'm not sure what the CPU bouncing around would be. But what I thought was going to be a super slow news day turned out to be pretty kind of excessive, especially in the light of Donald Trump, the Donald Trump cases. You read the title as well. I have a great video too about the GameStop explanation about how the market is being manipulated when it comes to the financial markets. That'll be an aside compared to what the main news of what today has been, which is just the continual sham, which is the Donald Trump witch hunt. I'm trying to find him for all of these charges in which nobody knows what really the underlying felony charges or the underlying big charges. And listen, let me not just bury the headline here. The headline is that the jury was provided instructions by the judge that they could have a 4-4-4 split vote, or essentially that they did not have to have unanimity or be unanimous in their decision over which guilty charge they pinned to Donald Trump. So with that being said, there's a lot to get into. We're going to start it from the top. I'll start with the Donald Trump stuff. But before I get into everything, a few announcements. The What in the World collab is this Saturday. The time is still to be decided. A couple things with it though. We'll be talking a bit about the Libertarian Party failure. We're talking a bit about Chris Cuomo and a few other things. Obviously, probably be talking about the Trump case as it develops. Forgive me, having trouble talking today. As it develops throughout the week, and then we will have a bit more to know because the deliberations are done for today. They will pick back up again at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll have a bit more news as we go throughout the week. Not still no Donnie. Donnie actually was in contact with me today. It turned out he was going off the grid. He just didn't give me any notice about it, and I don't feel any type of way about it. But got word back for those who might be interested. Donnie is doing okay. He is just off the grid. He is probably by a lake or a forest right now, having a much better time than you or I. Just trying to spend some time with his family, and I think that's a great thing. Another announcement will be next Tuesday. I will be interviewing River again. If you don't remember, River was the police officer or who was getting enrolled in the Springfield Police Academy. And he is going to give us some updates over what's going on with the academy, what's going on with him, etc., etc. So, subscribe on YouTube, follow me on X, follow me on TikTok, follow on Spotify, share the show if you enjoy what we're going to talk about. So let's get it started. Opening up is some of this insanity, okay? I was going to cover, the Tim Pool Trump interview because I didn't expect that this case was going to be moving as fast as it did. Well, it turned out the case was going to move insanely fast. But let's just start here with a tweet here from Marco Rubio. Let me switch this over and put it on screen here. So we have a tweet from Marco Rubio. It's a little slow. Judge in Trump case in New York City just told the jury they don't have to unanimously agree on which crime was committed as long as they all at least pick one. And that among the crimes they can pick from are ones Trump wasn't even charged with. This is exactly the kind of sham trial used against political opponents of the regime in the old Soviet Union. Now, I am no fan of Marco Rubio. I believe him to be a deep state greaseball. And it's unfortunate, too, because his name's been thrown in the hat to be the VP for Donald Trump. A lot of journalists who are in the know seem to be convinced that it has already been decided. Tim Pool pointed out with Marco Rubio when in the VP discussion that he thinks it's just kind of a deep state signing, like Donald Trump's taking on a deep state person to, I guess, cool it with some donors, and I guess make sure that Donald Trump's not going to be as free reign as he is being led or is leading most of the population to believe. But let's hope that it's not Marco Rubio. That's an aside. The news here is the fact that most people are blatantly shocked at the idea that the jury was told that they didn't have to be unanimous in their decision over the guilty charge. I think most people are kind of peeled back by that because it's just like, WTF? Now, I listened to the majority of a 4.5 hour space by Nick Sortor. If you want to find that, it is here on X. Again, Nick Sortor. Nick Sortor is a journalist who made a name covering a lot of the East Palestine and the Hawaii Maui fires. He's a really, really good journalist. I find him to be very credible with most of his work. He held a space where they were essentially on the minute watching for updates in the courtroom when it came to Donald Trump. Now, they followed it from the beginning. They only deliberated for about 3 hours, if that, maybe a little bit more than that. After the jury was given their instructions, they came back very quickly. I was listening to the space live when this was happening. They seemed all kind of shocked. A lot of people were kind of terrified that they came back with a guilty verdict already, but it was actually the opposite. So instead, what we got was the jury came back with a list of requests, and out of those requests, there were 4 different ones. Now, from what I understand, the requests were specifically to testimonial pieces from Cohen and Becker. I believe I'm saying that right, Becker. It seems that they are essentially kind of, what's the word? Eyeing up the judge. Essentially, I was led to believe that some of these things were disallowed by the judge. And so the jury feels uncomfortable giving their deliberation without receiving their request, which would be the full-on testimonies, or get some of the testimonies to be reread to them. Now, one of the craziest things with this, okay, is that they're not being given a transcript. Rather, it's being spoken to them. Now, this is on 2 fronts, okay? So it's with the jury instructions and with the transcripts they're asking for. Now, 2 things, right? Nick Sortor said that the jury instructions took the judge about an hour to read out loud, the spoken word. I don't know about you, but I'm somebody who quite literally can't retain really that much information, at least not like specific instructions over that. So to think that they wouldn't have some kind of transcript ready to go to be given to these people right off the rip is kind of insane to me. I think that would be like a standard process. Although as I was listening throughout this space, it seemed that there were lawyers in there who was saying this is common to New York practice. Same thing with the 4-4-4, which is also can be done in a 9-3 or a 6-6 in terms of like how the jury finds their verdict. And I believe this is only relevant in cases, as they were saying, in like burglary cases. It's not relevant in cases where it is a fraud case or like a classified documents or falsifying business records case. It seems to be pretty unprecedented to have this happening. On the other side of not being given a transcript is the actual testimony they wish to hear, which is apparently, it was said in the space that it is about 30 pages long. So if you can imagine 30 pages worth of spoken word, and then you are asking the jury to retain that information and then be able to analyze it compared to other information, I find that to be insane. I'm not sure why they're not being given a transcript. One of the lawyers in the spaces was going on about this is, they find it that it actually confuses the jury when they give them transcript. It's too much for them to handle. And it just seemed to me that it was like a kind of ridiculous argument. I think both should be given. I think if the jury wanted to hear spoken word, they should be allowed to be able to request that, as well as they should also just be on hand. The transcript should be readily available for them. I find it kind of a miscarriage of justice that not all elements and all samples and all evidence is readily available for the 12 people who are going to make a decision that has, for one, in a normal court case, it decides the life or consequences of the fate of an individual. But in this case, it is quite literally deciding the fate of a lot of people, and it's going to have a huge impact on the election. And to me, I find it to be entirely another bright and shining, obvious example of blatant corruption, sham work, facade, kangaroo courts. And it's just like one of these things where, you have to be naive to think that a court system would just have all these running pieces and be great, because again, it is a system of people and by people. So of course it's going to be flawed. It's going to have a lot of the same elements that Congress does, where people don't even show up to vote. And then, you're sitting there 3 years later and you're being like, wait, what? Congress hasn't voted for this long of a period. They don't even come in and do these things. And so I imagine a lot of the courts are done the same way. Now with this though, however, and I'm going to make sure I can plug my headphones in. There's a few other points. If you go to the libs of TikTok here, this goes into a little bit more detail when I'll read through this and we can watch this video here. But the fact that there's no unanimous consent is just essentially unheard of for me. I think for a lot of people, it's just, you would have never thought that at all. Then put these in, make sure the audio doesn't jump on me. So give me a second here. Go ahead and switch this over. I'm going to have to make sure that my settings are okay. You're probably going to see some of my stuff in here. That's fine. Try to connect these over. I just found the AirPod Pros to be a bit easier to listen and react to than having my big old headphones on. Kind of just makes it a little bit more difficult. Okay. And you can see my storage is entirely full. My computer's about to like go up in smoke. Okay, so hopefully the sound is okay. But again, as I was just talking about, the judge Merchant, who instructed the jury to not need to have a unanimous verdict in order to convict Donald Trump. And this is a quote. One thing in particular that the judge said the jurors could do. He delivered that what is being called really the pinnacle of all of this. There is no need to agree on what has occurred. They can disagree on what the crime was among the three choices. This means they could split 4-4-4, and the judge would still treat them unanimously. What does that mean? Now, again, I'll put a pause here. Like I had said just a bit ago, a lawyer who was on the Nick Sotor space was saying not only can it just be the 4-4-4, it could be a 9-3 or a 6-6 or some kind of variation of, and obviously the 12 unanimous too, but I doubt that's going to happen. The quote continues, outrageous. In a normal criminal case, every statutory crime has what we call elements of the offense. Like in a bank robbery case, you have to rob. It has to be a financial institution. You have to show intent, said former prosecutor Andrew McCarthy. It continues, these are the things the jury has to agree on unanimously, that they were proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Here what we're doing is taking the element that actually makes this a felony, because remember, falsification of records is normally a misdemeanor in New York. What makes it a felony is that you're concealing or committing another crime, which again, this is what most people have been pointing to, which is what is this other crime? Like it's this magical other crime that they keep pointing to and alluding to, but is not present in this case, and the jurors are not being asked to deliberate on whatever this hidden charge may be. So it goes on. And here the judge is telling them that they don't have to agree about what the other crime is under circumstances where that not only is what makes this a felony, makes it a 4-year potential prison penalty rather than a year or less, but it is also what gets us into the courtroom. If this had been a misdemeanor, the time to bring this case would have lapsed in 2019. The only reason they are still able to bring this case is because it's a felony allegedly, and yet now the judge is saying, you don't have to agree on what the felony is. And then this is when the jury had gone to deliberations. This is from earlier today. And I essentially had just read what that was going to say. The reporter, it was insanity, but the bright light in this was, it was within a 3 to 4 hour period. They come back, and even on the spaces, people were like, oh no, it's happening. Like, oh my gosh, please, no. And no, they came back with 4 requests, and the sentiment from the ground and the field reporters was that the jury seemed upset. The jury seems like they are kind of being played. It seems like there are some people who are on there that are going to be browbeating the others into being reasonable about this case, which is a good sign because I think most people were kind of worried given the fact that it had been leaked that there were former lawyers that were somehow ended up on this jury, which obviously seems a bit kind of odd given what we know about how jury selection normally goes and the rarity of that a lawyer would be put on the ticket who is a former like New York attorney. Kind of wild. But to continue from here, even CNN says Alvin Bragg fell short. This is a 3.5 little clip. This is from Jesse Waters, forgive me. He's reacting to the clip that they aired from CNN that was talking about just how obvious it is for anyone who has a slight idea of the legal process, what's going on in this courtroom. So we'll go ahead and play this and we'll go ahead and take a listen to what they're saying. And again, anyone who's currently watching, if the sound is off or it is too low, too high, please let me know. Put a chat in. I will raise or change it depending on whatever the issue may be. Let's listen.
So closing arguments are done, and we still don't know what the crime of the trial of the century is. Even CNN says Bragg fell short.
You think, after listening to all of this, you think they fell short? How? They fell way short because let's start with reasonable doubt. There is reasonable doubt all over this case. Where is Keith Schiller? Where is Alan Weisselberg? How did Michael Cohen get away with stealing $30,000? Hold a pity party for him. Made $4 million on this. Thought he'd be chief of staff. He's a fixer. Stormy Daniels. Let's hold a pity party for her.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
Trump legal.
I mean, and that's what most people forget, is that these court cases aren't meant to prove he did something. It's to prove without a reasonable doubt. And so if you still as a juror member have some reasonable doubt or a suspicion that this is possibly only circumstantial, that he didn't do it, it's not enough. And that is the criteria in which you must overcome to provide a guilty verdict. Now, what he's saying is, with it, when it's riddled with holes, the way this case has been, he was like, it's like a ship sinking, right? Just essentially just a little bit of time before he walks out of there and he's acquitted. At least that's my opinion.
Spokesperson Alina Habba joins me now. Alina, so you were there. Closing arguments. Todd Blanche, Trump's defense counsel, went first. And then I guess the prosecution, did 5 hours?
Right. That's what you have to do when you haven't proven your case in trial. You plan that you have this great big break, and then you come up and you say, oh, guess what? I get to go do an argument, and in my entire argument, guess what, everybody? They don't get to rebut anything I say. So they took 4 hours to tell their story. I actually had to leave. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was insane.
Probably need a bathroom break. It's a very, very long closer.
Yeah, but
what was the point? Did they have a crime at the end of this?
No.
No, still they haven't named the crime.
They could not give us any evidence. It was a lot of noise, and that's what we keep seeing, Jesse. There was not one bit of evidence that showed that Donald Trump had an intent to commit any crime. And I'm still, as I sit here as an attorney, trying to understand how they could have possibly brought this at this point, wasted this much taxpayer dollars, past the statute of limitations, and then had the audacity to make a jury sit there until 8 o'clock with a bunch of nonsense and shiny balls, as she just said,
right.
Because that's all they've got. They've got no facts.
So we're hearing from inside the court, and you can confirm this, every time defense raised an objection, overruled. Judge overrules every objection from the defense and sustains every objection from the prosecution.
Yeah, I can't relate to that at all. It's unbelievable. I mean, you've seen it, and the way that the visceral reaction that this judge had when we had our one witness come up and he threw the press out, that kind of anger, that kind of TDS, frankly, we saw it with De Niro today. But that is what we're challenged with. We're dealing with people that are either going to believe a story. It was like sitting in make-believe land with the prosecution today, or you're going to listen to the facts. And the facts took us an hour and a half to break down. There were none. And you've got a person that is a complete liar that you're relying on. It was pretty simple for us. It took them a very long time to try and bob, weave, and make up stories.
And one thing you got to think about, too, especially with a figure who's like Donald Trump, I don't understand how you could guarantee a fair trial for someone who is that popular, who is that well known. Especially because, like, the whole point is to find, a jury of peers for them to be objective. Generally, when it's, you're on jury duty, it's some person you've literally never met in your life before, but you're in the same community as them. Well, that was one of the bigger issues I had with all of these Trump cases, which is the fact that the jury selection, when it came to that, which is like, it doesn't even matter, because who doesn't know who Donald Trump is? Especially if someone who's going to respond to jury duty is obviously going to be at least someone who's responsible enough to be somewhat aware of what's going on in the news cycle. And to think that it's, it's at least reached this level, right? Or at least it's like, well, at least we can relax and take a breath of fresh air, because it's all bogus. It's just a literal joke. This case is riddled with holes. And that's why it was so, I think, surprising that the jury didn't deliberate for very long, because not only was it just like they were going back and forth, to come back with that many requests, I think, showed a bit of disdain for the way this court case has been handled, at least from the jury. And it might be a bit petty, but at least, it's helping. So let's keep watching.
You were there in the courtroom for almost every single day. You laid your eyes on the jury.
Yeah.
They're going to start deliberating tomorrow. I know we don't like to make predictions about this. You saw them absorb the closer this evening. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a result Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What are you feeling?
I don't feel like, first of all, we can call it a closer when it was 5 hours. It was more like a long movie that wouldn't end. But no, I think that, honestly, if they do the right thing, and considering that we're in New York, I think we should get a hung jury. But like any hung jury, the judge is going to give them an Allen charge. He's going to tell you to go back, restudy everything. You're the jury that can do this. So maybe 3 days max. I mean, I'd hope so. It, to me, should be an acquittal. But I'm not a New York liberal person sitting.
Thank God you're not. All right. Well, maybe by the end of the week, we.
Right. Thank God you're not. That's probably part of it, right? This is probably part of the plan, which is the whole point of this in the beginning. I mean, at least from my perspective, which I find it all to be bogus, is this is a great, grand scheme to be able to prevent Donald Trump from being able to be on the campaign trail. And not only that, you get two birds with one stone, because now he could be campaigning if he could be putting money into it if he had to go sit in court. He couldn't do all these extra rallies and things. But it's two birds in one stone, because when you have an incumbent amount of court cases, you have to put money down. And not only that, he's got to owe all these different bond amounts and all the different that goes into legal fees, paying for these lawyers. So they're essentially drying up the money that he has that he could be spending on what would be the campaign trail. Now, what they were saying there, which is, it could be a few more days. And then if there's, there's also another jury trial. Oh, forgive me. This is from What in the World. People are saying if Trump goes to jail, it's good for his 2024 chances. I'm curious what the jury was discussing in regard to their 4 requests. So the 4 requests were 2 things about the Becker testimony, 1 thing about Cohen, and I forget what the 4th thing was. But they were all in regards to essentially what I believe was disallowed originally by the judge. So they came back with four requests, all related to what had been either, only halfway adjudicated or was disallowed entirely. If he goes to jail, I think it's good for his 2024 chances. I agree. The only issue I think that would come with this would be if he does receive a felony charge, say that there is, they go this extra length. What's to stop other states from, because we got some time before it's November, right? So what is there to stop other states from placing some kind of ridiculous short-term legislation that says we're not going to allow felons on the ballot in 2024, which could be a default way to knock Donald Trump off. Now, I'm not sure the logistical ability to do that, but it's something I can see happening. It's something I'm like, the Democrats in the institution in the deep state, I would imagine, will pull out any and all stops they can to manipulate the election. So I wouldn't put it past them to be able to at least knock him off on some certain ballots, especially seeing how that was the initial, I think, go-to early on. Now, I could be misunderstanding the way these processes work, and maybe that's not even a possibility. But when it comes to the transcript portion particularly, it seems like they're doing everything in their power to make it impossible for the jury to understand what's going on. Especially when they talk about how a 30-page testimony won't be given to them in transcript. They can only hear it in spoken word. And everybody knows you're not going to be able to retain a paragraph out of those 30 pages, and if anything. And so to think that they're going to have to then analyze and then compare to with a spoken word, retain that over a couple of days is just, I find it ridiculous, honestly. But again, this Nick Sortor space that I was listening to, there were some other retired lawyers in there and attorneys who were saying this is apparently a normal thing that happens in New York. Again, I think that's just more evidence that New York is just a broken city, a broken environment, especially when it comes to the legal sense. Now, the jail time is definitely possible. Now, to get to this, I do have a little clip I wanted to go to, which is of Will Chamberlain and Jack Posobiec, I believe, who were talking about this. Now, it's only a minute and a half long, but they do discuss, or at least Will Chamberlain provides what his perspective is if he does go to face jail time. So I did want to see what they said, because I have not reacted to this. I just screen grabbed it. Or not screen grabbed it, but I bookmarked it, I should say. So let's take a listen.
The idea then is, so let's say, okay, devil's advocate, let's say Trump's found guilty on all or some of the charges. What kind of time frame would he be looking at for overturning that on appeal?
Well, I mean, I think it depends, right? Sometimes you can, I mean, obviously, I mean, that's a very lawyer answer, right? It depends, but I'm not familiar with New York's procedure, but just, from what it looks like in the federal court system, you can ask for an injunction to stop enforcement Usually you have to make a pretty strong showing that the decision below was wrong. And I'm sure that in the event of a conviction here that President Trump's legal team will do that. They'll try and basically stay any, attempt to enforce the verdict and put Trump in jail. I don't think I saw some mixed, I've seen mixed things because on the one hand, the level of felony this is, I think under New York law, it is in fact required jail term. But I've seen people on Twitter saying the opposite, and I'm not really sure. I can't say that I have done enough detailed research to know what the potential penalty is here. But I know, if they've raised this up to a felony, I think that I would be surprised, I guess, if jail time wasn't a possibility.
So he says, I would be surprised if jail time wasn't a possibility. I think there's a real possibility he's found guilty on at least one of those charges, given how the way that it is done. I also have a feeling that there's also could be a possible, when this is the way they put it in the space too, some browbeating to get away from the hung jury, especially when you know how agendaed and biased some of these people can be. That's a fear. But then again, this also goes back to the fact when I was saying, like, I don't think you can even give Trump a fair trial. Especially when people are that big. I think there's a lot of people you probably would have a hard time giving a fair trial to, especially when you get to a certain level of status, because it's like, who doesn't know you? Who doesn't already have some kind of preconceived notion about you? And so to be able to give that person like a clean slate, I think is just an impossible ask. But it's no excuse to cheat, lie, and be scandalous and do all this fake garbage, which is essentially, what they're doing. When it comes to the unanimity thing, I think that's a broken practice. I think there needs to be some kind of accountability there, because I don't think New York should be operating like that. I don't care what kind of case it is. I just the way that they kind of explained it is just insane. I think it's kind of a perverse form of what I've always been led to believe is the normal way that a court case is meant to be taken out. And then to think, to go even a step further, it's not even the transcript they're unwilling to give and provide in note form and in paper form. It's literally the jury instructions. And so when they came back after the request, one of the requests, again, I just remember this, was for the jury instructions to be given again. So instead of giving a transcript or a piece of paper or anything that could summarize what the jury instructions was, the judge said, well, you'll have to give me an hour and I'll have to tell you again, because I guess this is the only way they are allowing this information to be transferred is like through spoken word. Now, I can't remember because I'm pretty sure they did not end with him re-giving the jury instructions. I think they just called it. So I would imagine starting tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., they're going to pick up with him giving the jury instructions again so they can begin to go through the request. Now, I'm not sure how that process works. Again, I'm not a court expert by any means, but I can read the news. So we will see with that, I imagine. And again, me and War will be covering this on this Saturday, because I'm sure that they're not going to have anything that happens tomorrow. So I would imagine by Saturday we'll have a bit more to understand or to discuss, especially as the news kind of proliferates out. And seeing how this just happened within the last 2 or 3 hours, I would imagine it maybe by tonight, there's going to be somebody who has a bit more proliferated and concise explanation of what just exactly happened today. So with that is essentially all of the Donald Trump stuff. It's terrifying, but it's also white pill to see that the jury was being as proactive as they were. I still have hope that this just kind of ends in a sham, get a hung jury, make the deliberations take even longer, and then maybe you possibly finally get Donald Trump freed up enough that he can begin at least halfway campaigning and being on the campaign trail, because I think that would be hugely beneficial to the mission and to what's going on, and to, for one, help save this country. Especially because when you think about it, like, he could only even give Tim Pool like 15 minutes on an interview that was tagged on the back end of his IRL episode. And so it's kind of wild to think that he's being stretched thin to this degree. And it's just unfortunate, especially because this is like a dead year. And so it's kind of wild because, at least the Democrats literally aren't running anybody. There's nobody to run. It's not like Joe Biden's campaigning at all. Half of what he says, even online, just gets mocked into oblivion. And even today, there's posts of these empty rallies where nobody's even at. I mean, Harry Sisson is posting these fake pictures, but then somebody takes one that's just 20 feet behind him, and it's just completely empty. And it's one of the weirdest years given the previous, like, 2 to 3, 4 election cycles where normally we have a heated race all the way through and up to the final minute. This year that everything died in the primaries because everybody knew it was like Donald Trump or nobody. And I think you get these things when people feel that the stakes are so high, they're unwilling to parcel on like the margins. And again, this is also why you can see that Donald Trump went to the Libertarian Party when they had their convention, because it is an all or nothing kind of gambit where he's going to go and appeal to libertarian parties because to him it is like every single vote matters, and it's essentially a race between two big machines, right? You have the establishment machine, and then you have the Trump train. But to move off of this, we covered this to the degree of which I understand it. That is essentially all that there is with it for right now. This is, I'm sure we might possibly see some stuff about the jury here soon, especially given the fact that people had leaked out that some of them were attorneys. I haven't looked into that at all, but I wouldn't put it past the Democrats to have somehow found a way to install some kind of like legal expert who can go in there and kind of emotionally argue his way into getting, whoever the average person is to vote or to unanimously decide that Trump's guilty on something. And so regardless, but to move off of that, I want to go to this insane video I saw from Ian Carroll because, and you're probably someone who's like me, right? Where you've seen the GameStop Stonks, you've seen the apes and the apes go strong, apes to the moon. And you're probably like, what is all in this about? Or you probably don't understand like what the mechanisms are. What are these people really doing? Why was it such a stick to like the establishment? How did these hedge funds collapse? So Ian Carroll put together a 10-minute video because he responded to Matt Baker, because Matt Baker had the same question essentially I did, which is, I'm seeing pieces of this, but I'm not understanding the big picture about GameStop. Like, why is this a huge thing? Who is this roaring kitty guy? Why does any of this matter? Ian Carroll put together this 10-minute video that explains this incredibly well, and we're going to watch it in its entirety because I think everybody needs to see this to have an understanding of just how fragile our financial market system is, and just to show you what a sham the majority of the American system is. So I'll go to this. And again, this is Ian Carroll, right? This is somebody who is in the InfoWars wing, someone who's like in the anti-Israel wing, who is sitting there. He's in the canceled group, right? He's normally thrown around with like the Jake Shields and Nick Fuentes, the Tate brothers. He's in that crowd of people who is heavily censored, but they're dominant on X. So this is his response here. So Ian Carroll, and he's responding again. So this is Matt Baker, right? So Matt Baker is somebody who's in the political arena as well as a commentary. I don't know too much about him, so forgive me. But he says, I got you, homie. Here's an explanation of the actual market-wide criminal conspiracy that GameStop exposed, and how and why short sellers could actually blow up the entire global economy. Cameos by Blockbuster and Toys R Us. No exaggeration. So I'm going to get this from the beginning. Again, if the volume is too high or too low, please let me know. I will adjust it accordingly. I am watching, so as long as it's in the yellow, I'm not going to bump it, but if I see it in the red, I'll obviously dump it down a little bit. But let's watch.
So this homie said, I can't believe this GameStop thing is still going on. Can someone explain it to me? I love Ian and everything he stands for, but I literally have no idea what this is about or how one stock could have any real effect on impacting ultra wealthy people. I'm down to help. I just need to understand what's going on. I got you, Matt. I'm going to try to put it all into one video right now. I've made lots of videos about pieces of this, but I'm going to try to actually explain the real thesis of what's going on and why GameStop very well could affect the entire market, bring down corrupt financial institutions on a big scale. But yeah, I got to put my hair up for this one. Okay, don't get scared of charts. We're going to keep it real.
When I put my hair up like that, I also just look just like that different, like a naked mole rat. He has a little bit more hair on his head than I do. I can't lie.
Really simple. When you buy stocks normally, you're buying at a lower price and you're hoping it goes up so you can sell it and make some money, right? Well, there's no rule in the stock market that says you're not allowed to borrow something from someone, right? So you're allowed to borrow shares from your homie. And if you borrow something, you're allowed to do what you want with it, right? I can borrow some shares and then sell them on the market right now. I just have to return them later to make sure that homie gets his shares back, right? So you're allowed to do this thing called short selling, where you borrow some shares from whoever right now, and you sell them at the market right now, hoping actually the price will go down. And then later you'll buy some and return them to your homie. And you actually make money because you return them for less money than you actually made when you sold them in the first place. So short selling is this thing where you can bet the market will go down, and it's like taking out a loan, and when the market goes down, then you close out the loan and you make some money. You have to pay a little interest to keep that loan open, but you can make a lot of money doing that. Especially if you see a company that's like obviously gonna die because it's a failing business model and you wanna make some money while it dies. But you wanna be really careful, because if you have all these loans open and you're paying interest to keep your loans open, you're hoping the price goes down, but then it starts to go up a lot, you could lose a lot of money because you'd have to.
And they did lose a bunch of money. Now, if you remember, the GameStop phenomenon happened, this is about a couple years ago. There were numerous hedge funds. I believe there was one large one in particular that completely bottomed out, and then I believe had to declare bankruptcy and a few other issues that, you know, in the financial market, because they have obviously owe a bunch of money to people who put money into it. And that's what happened to them. They had a huge amount of options into short selling GameStop, which meant that they had, you know, these sell options at like whatever the price was. I think it was like $9 at then. But now they had to go back in and buy all of those shares they short sold at that $9 mark, meaning every single one of those shares that were sitting at like $63, or when it went up to like the $100, meaning they're buying like 100, they had to buy 100 times back at the rate in which they had. And so at a certain point they panicked out because the number was rising so much that they just were like, we have to eat this enormous loss. And they did. And then boom, you know, next thing you know, like a $1.2 billion hedge fund just instantly gets crumpled. And it's because they were playing these stupid games on the market like this. But let's continue, because he explains it a bit better than I can.
To buy them all back at a higher price to pay back your loan, and you had to pay interest to keep your loan open. And prices can go up infinitely, theoretically. So short selling is pretty dangerous, and everyone knows that. And back in the 90s, all these rich people like at Bain Capital, like Mitt Romney, they realized that they can actually take companies down from the inside and basically loot a company from the inside, take all its money, give it to them and their buddies, the shareholders, and then bankrupt it and leave. And there's not really any consequences. You just buy into the company, buy a bunch of shares, get yourself on the board, take it over, start hiring people that'll do what you want, mismanage it, do a bunch of buybacks so the money gets paid back out to you and the shareholder buddies. And you can really just mismanage the company into the ground and basically loot it for all it's worth. And when it goes bankrupt, it's like, oh, well, whoopsies, it was destined to fail. We'll just move on to the next company, whatever.
And imagine there's probably people who will watch this who have probably worked in a corporate environment, whether it's accounting or some larger firm, and have had this exact thing happen where all of a sudden there's a buyout. You know, this middle manager comes over, it's this new guy, he comes in and he's literally like, he walks in and he's like, yep, have a good one. You know, flips a cigarette out and he smacks the secretary on the behind as he walks through the door. He's like, all right, man, we're running it now. And and the next thing you know, the company starts diving into the ground. It's probably because he was involved or invested on the back end of one of these schemes meant to haul the company from the inside out while they scalp money out. Quite literally, Tim's allegory of people stealing silver spoons off the Titanic as it sinks.
My mistake. And they made billions of dollars doing this to Toys R Us. And everyone else was looking around like, damn, that was a pretty solid strategy, Bain Capital. Maybe we could do that to some other companies. And this was just after the .com bubble happened. And so there was this whole internet thing. Amazon was on the rise. And everyone kind of realized, like, you know, there's all these retail stores out there that are probably in big trouble, like Blockbuster and Sears and GameStop. You know, companies that are bound to fail. So why don't we make them fail faster and profit off of that? Plus, it turns out that these dudes that work at places like Bain Capital that can take these places down from the inside out, turns out they have a lot of friends in the market that like to short sell. And the thing about supply and demand is when I'm borrowing like thousands and thousands and thousands of shares and selling them into the market right now, all that selling actually makes the price of the stock go down. Because like when everyone's selling something, it gets valued less. But when everyone wants to buy something, the value goes up, right? So short selling actually makes a stock's price go down. And these guys realize that, like, you know, you like to make money when stocks go down, and I like to make money when companies get destroyed. And when we do those both at the same time, everybody wins.
And it's a double-edged sword. So not only when they get together and they can group up with these with the large hedge funds, and they get a lot of people's money all sorted together, and they all do the short selling all at once, it drives the price down. Vice versa, though, what happened with GameStop was when these companies start panicking and they think that like they have to cut their losses at a certain point. When they buy back all of their shares, it inversely rises the price. So when all these hedge funds started scrambling to get their shares back to cut their losses to stop the bleeding, they were also driving the price up because they're mass buying GameStop stock again because they had to come back on their loans. Kind of crazy, right?
Except the company, of course. And then it turned out they were like, hey, we both know a lot of people in the mainstream media that like to report on failing companies. You know, the kinds of reports that make investors scared and make them want to sell a stock. And they realized they kind of had the dream team for bankrupting companies, and they could all make money on the way down and no one would ever stop them because it's kind of legal. And it actually started to work so well that they started to get really greedy. And they started to naked short sell, which means like no one's checking if we're even borrowing these shares that we're borrowing in order to short sell. So why even borrow them? We can just short sell shares and say we borrowed them, and the company's going to go bankrupt anyways. And when it does go bankrupt, we don't even need to pay that loan back because there's no shares to give back. They're gone. And fun fact, it's all tax-free money too, because there's no company the shares are gone. Free money. So some of them got really greedy and started selling without even borrowing the shares in the first place. But we'll come back to that in just a second. Because the other thing that's important to realize about the stock market is it's like this big casino game now. So it's not like the big boys aren't just playing with like a share of a company. They're playing with these things that are called derivatives, which is like leveraging your assets to take out loans to like make big plays, big gambles. So they use all these special kinds of contracts where like they put up collateral in order for their bank or whoever to let them trade on a whole bunch of extra money they don't really have, but they've got collateral. So if it starts to go sideways, the bank can just take their collateral and it's all safe. But like this way, I can trade with 100 times the money of what I actually have. It's
kind of insane to think that you can do so much without having really any money. And that's becoming the root of like what this entire financial situation is. Yeah, this is a phenomenal breakdown, dude. When I had saw this video, I was like, I'm going to have to react to this. It's insane. And it keeps going. And what's insane is once you get to these numbers up here to see how much money truly is in these derivatives between the collateral and how much the banks are being leveraged against, it's going to blow your mind.
Leverage. And all these different tricks, they're called derivatives. And they let these big players gamble with huge positions in the market. So this now, when the stock moves by $1, they're leveraged 100x. And so if the stock goes up by $1, they can make like 100x $1. Or if the stock goes down, vice versa. And this derivatives market has gotten really big, like hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of these weird bets just all over the market. These are the top banks. It's like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, their names are over there. And this is in millions of dollars. So we're talking $49 million. That is $49 trillion worth of these derivative bets.
So think about that. So JP Morgan alone in derivative bets, one bank institution by itself, has more in these derivatives than the entire United States is in debt in trillions of dollars, right? Because the United States is in debt by like around $34 trillion. But JP Morgan has about $50 trillion in these derivatives inside the financial institution. Wild, dude. Absolutely wild. And it makes the money seem not even real when you get to these almost unfeasible figures.
Open with just JP Morgan, the biggest bank. But the thing about these derivatives is they all have collateral backing them up, right? And the thing they use for collateral, they're not like you and me. It's not like they're putting up their car for collateral. They're putting up their other assets. So over here, they're going to be trading these assets on that collateral. And over here, they're trading the collateral on these assets. And so the whole market is now tied together by all these big financial institutions trading trillions of dollars worth of stocks that they don't actually have on leverage that's based on collateral that they're trading for trillions of dollars worth of stock over there. You see what I mean? So like if they fuck this one up, then that one gets fucked. There's all these dudes doing this like kind of criminal shorting businesses out of existence scheme in the market, kind of in secret. And they've been targeting GameStop for years now. Ever since 2014, the stock was on this endless ramp down. They were short selling it while they had infiltrated it and were mismanaging the company from the inside out. Amazon was licking its lips, ready to take over the video game online industry. And the people doing all this short selling also have all these other crazy bets open all over the market. And if any of them go wrong, a whole lot of things go wrong. And then out of nowhere, this random dude that would like live stream to 4 people about his investment thesis
like me
noticed that GameStop had a lot of short sellers, and it wasn't necessarily a bad company. In fact, it had a future if it turned around. And then this really savvy businessman came and took over the company and started turning it around. And he kicked out all the bad people that had been trying to mismanage it to death. And suddenly all the people that had just spent years and years short selling millions and millions of shares, and all those loans were still open because they were expecting it to go to zero and they wouldn't have to pay them back. Suddenly the price is going up and they're all in trouble. Because the thing is, when the price goes up and one of the other people that's short selling the company gets scared and closes out their trades, they have to buy all those shares back to get out of that, right? Because they borrowed and sold, so now they have to buy and give them back. But all that buying makes the price go up even higher. And there were a lot of people short selling this thing. And in fact, they had short sold it so much that they couldn't afford to buy it all back once the price started going up that high. I mean, it was down to like 50 cents. And they were opening short sales at 50 cents. Today we're at what, $60 times millions and millions and millions of shares that you have to buy back?
Like, that is like an incredible, that's like an 120 times, a 1,200 times loss for all of these companies. And to think that it's all fake. It's all just fake, non-existent, poof, fairy tale, not real. Just, it's imaginary dollars in a bank with imaginary loans, with imaginary collateral that's being linked to all these things that don't actually exist, but the numbers on the paper look good. Incredible, dude. Incredible.
Each one will make the price go up, and the whole stock market is tied together by all these crazy financial derivatives, and everyone's balance sheets are actually kind of sketchy in the first place. Yeah, and we all realize that all we have to do is buy the shares and just hold on to them, because these guys need to buy them from us in order to close their trades out. Whoopsies. And you know, the more we thought about it, the more we realized, no, I don't really want to sell. Fuck you. So then they tried to trick us into thinking that they had already closed their positions and it was all over. And we were like, I'm pretty sure you're lying, dude. So we just held on for years. And it turns out we were right. Shorts never closed. And now we've all got the shares that they need in order to close. And you know, I still don't want to sell. Fuck you.
That is a beautiful breakdown of that situation. So now if to make a little bit more sense of apes hold strong, or never sell or never give up, and if you want to understand what their mission is and what they were doing to try to achieve with that. The first time I watched this, it was like, it was shocking for one, right? But again, like as I thought about it, I was like, it's really not that shocking, because what isn't fake in America 2024, right? What isn't some kind of astroturfed, inorganic, artificial creation that may be AI generated? It's all a facade. Again, that is Ian Carroll. Shout out to Ian Carroll. He is on X and TikTok. I think he's banned off of essentially every other platform, at least as far as I understand. I believe his tag is Cancel Cloco. I think he also has a clothing company called You Can't Cancel This Clothing Company, but it's just short for Cancel Cloco. So CANCELCL. Let me just put it in I'll just put it in the chat for everybody. Let me be an old man and type this out. So I believe it would be Cancel Cloco. That is his at. He is on I know he's on X for sure. That's essentially where his mainstay is at there. wild. The only thing I was thinking of too is like, I'm gonna get copyright struck for that stupid piano music in the background, but we'll see. I know they added a new feature to that you can actually like isolate music and mute it instead of having to actually like block out or lose all the audio over a portion. Who knows though? Even if it is copyright, I'll leave it up. Who cares? I don't want to monetize it. That's just too good to like not be heard by everyday regular people, right? Like that's incredible stuff. And then again, you know, I'm supposed to respect these people who blatantly like manipulate the market in these ways, right? No, no, it's all fake. It's so fake. But okay, for all of those people, well, forgive me, my mic's coming undone. But for all those people who were holding it on, who were doing the apes, you know, apes to the moon and all that stuff, this made a little bit more sense to me. I obviously had an idea that like it was clearly like a scheme with the GameStop thing was a scheme against the elites in some way, but I didn't understand how. Like, why has this even working? Why are these businesses choosing out? Because again, I'm somebody who doesn't understand the financial markets as, you know, somebody like he does, especially not him. And I imagine the majority of people don't understand the financial markets as they are. I mean, people can barely do their taxes here in America. So I imagine that would extend to the financial markets. So forgive me. Hard segue. We're going to jump over to this little clip from the SouthPark series. It is hilarious. It is a short, about 3-minute clip about them talking about the U.S. healthcare system. They nail it. They do a phenomenal job. It's about 4 minutes long. It'll be a bit funnier. It's kind of a break away from the more serious stuff, but I did want to react to it because I think they did a phenomenal job when it comes to explaining how broken the U.S. healthcare system is. So let's go ahead and react to this. Get on screen here. Maybe go ahead. Move it. Okay. And then again, if the sound or volume is something's wrong with it, please let me know. I will change it. They could have also... that little portion right there could have also been the BMV. Like it's both the same exact way, right? Like, oh, you're here to actually like do something that you need to be able to drive a vehicle. Oh, okay, go get in that line. It'll be an 18-hour wait. Like, dude, not even a joke. This is clear. This is meant to be a joke, but it's not a joke. Right? That's what makes it hilarious. Is it's like once you like get upset and you show that you're not going to be pushed around, they're like, oh, okay. Well, now we'll treat you accordingly, since you're not going to be a pushover like everyone else is who doesn't ask questions. Like, such a scam too, man. It's so real, dude. That's so real. Like, you go to do something and they're like, man, we're going to have to run this test. We're going to have to run this test. We're going to have to run this test. You're going to have to go see this doctor. Oh, well, it looks like he can only do tests on this day. And then, oh, well, okay, the imaging center can only accept it if it's like this. And it's just, spot on, dude. Because you'll go in for a broken ankle and like, it's funny because he's going in for obesity, right? It's making the point even more so that it's like he's going in for something simple and they're like, let's get an x-ray. You know, we'll do an x-ray just to make sure. It's like, I'm not even here for anything that would need an x-ray. Oh, you're not a doctor. Well, let's go get an x-ray. It's just why the average guy doesn't even want to go get anything checked out. Like, why does the average guy not want to go to the hospital? And it's like, because I'm going to be on a gauntlet. I'll have to take a whole month off of work just to go figure out what's wrong with me when I'm done running the gauntlet of the hospital and the insurance company and the ENT specialist and the x-ray guys and the imaging center. And then it's ridiculous too, because it's like how it is here in Columbus, dude. It's like one thing will be on the north side of Columbus, one thing's 20 minutes down to the southwest, and other things out in the countryside. And it's like, why are all these campuses not near each other? It doesn't make any sense. How could you not house all these things all together? And then maybe it's just made that way. Maybe it works better that way. Who am I to know? But to me, it seems like it's just one big... That's so good. And that's honestly, like, that's also representative of like just customer service in general, right? Like I said, that was like, you could do this with BMV as well. But how many of you doing even the most basic things when it comes to customer service, dude, whether it's even like with somebody like Walmart or like a restaurant or something, and it's just like, it's dog crap. The quality of it is just like, be on hold, talk to this automated person for 5 to 10 minutes, be put on hold for another 38 minutes, listen to like the 19 different options they have. If you would like to call this person for X reason, press 1. If you would like to call this person for Y reason, press 2. And it's like the phone call. And then if you mess it up once, you're like, oh my gosh. And you have to like dial the number again, and you're like, oh my gosh. Like 8 minutes of just waiting through just so you can like press the button the right time just to like, and dude, the worst is then when they actually hang up on you and you have to do the whole process over again, re-explain why you're calling in the first place. And by then you're raging, right? You're raging out. And the customer service person's like, why is this guy so mad? It's just, is everyone mad who comes here? And it's like, no, your broken customer service system is why everybody is so angry, dude. Nobody wants to talk to a robot for 30 minutes and then listen to a human who can only be like, let me escalate that. I'll get the other manager on board, and then wait for another 20 minutes. Like, that's worthless. That's absolutely dog worthless. But to make another hard segue, there's a few other things. One of the things that was out with the was the Libertarian Party stuff, right? And I did want to talk about this for a little bit, right? It's a hard segue over to the Libertarian Party stuff because we move away to a bit more serious nature on this. The Libertarian Party was an absolute failure. They chose or nominated, I should say, Chris Oliver. Chris Oliver is openly gay. Let me just get a picture of him here on screen here for you. It quite literally disgusts me so much. This is Chase Oliver here. This is him. And this is a tweet from his own account. I am happy I got to spend my Sunday out in the district supporting local businesses and speaking about the Let Her Speak rally this Saturday. Vote gold, vote for Chase. I don't even know what vote gold is or what the Let Her Speak rally is, but it sounds feminist and it sounds like it doesn't belong in this country. The second thing is look at that ridiculous mask he's wearing, and why is he wearing a rainbow flag? Why is the Libertarian Party donning the establishment flag of progressivism, I should say? It was so disappointing to watch the Libertarian Party burn themselves back into irrelevancy right after garnering a good percentage and making moves back into not just this two-party system, at least giving a pseudo option. Obviously, electorally, it would have never mattered. But these things take time. It's one election cycle at a time. But to think that they would burn all of their progress that they had made in a matter of a couple of in just one convention is just like, okay. And a lot of memes are coming out where people are like, maybe I am conservative, because if this is libertarian, well, here's the thing. It's not libertarian. And let me show you why. We'll go to a few more of these things from him, okay? Because I organize this pretty well. Or I like to think I organize it pretty well. On this as well, let me go off of this. Here is a thread of his tweets. Let me also put this back on screen. Here's a thread, 3 of them in a row, okay? 3 of this guy's tweets right here. Let's start with the first one. He says, guess what? And it's hilarious because his name is Chase for Liberty. Guess what? I went to a Pride event. Oh, you probably can't see that. Let me actually zoom it up. I went to a Pride event featuring a drag queen story time, and there was no grooming or sexualization. Just happy kids hearing a story about rainbows. Like, oh my gosh. So not only is he a homosexual, he's a liar. He is a blatant denier of reality. How did this guy gain sway in the Libertarian Party? I had honestly never heard of this guy until today. I would imagine if he was a viable candidate, I probably would have heard of him before then. But what's wild is I really had only heard of, obviously, Clint Russell taking the VP nomination. I'd only heard of RFK possibly taking the ticket. And then there was the Michael Rechtenwald. And then there's like the Josh Smith guy. And then obviously Dave Smith. And there's a couple other ones. But Chase Oliver's name is one I'm entirely unfamiliar with. And to think that the Libertarian Convention, he won in almost like a 2-person race over Mike Rechtenwald is mind-blowing. Insane. But again, I don't think this speaks to what was going on or some foul play in the Libertarian Party. I think this speaks to the fact that the normie, the baseline of our society has become so flagrantly progressive that people just don't see it. They don't understand. And I'll say this too. I think a large portion of those people who are in the Libertarian Party are a bunch of degenerates who just want to do drugs. Now, it's not all of them who are in the Libertarian Party. I have libertarian friends who I respect quite a bit. Now they are of the loose kind, and Donnie's one too, and I think Donnie's position is the only respectable one I can take out of the Libertarian Party, which is he views that your rights stop where someone else's begins. But let's move on to the second tweet here. And guess what? It wasn't grooming or indoctrination. It was someone reading a story about how you can be proud of being yourself. That's a good message to send kids. No, it's not. That is blatantly unbiblical. And newsflash for anybody who's listening to me, I would like this nation to move towards a Christian nationalist position. This is not anything close or representative to anything, whether it's historically or the current iota of what America is. In the modernity aspect, this represents the current cancer that exists in the society, which is the woke progressive push to constantly hypersexualize things to the point in which we are now. I mean, here, listen to me. Do you not remember when we were sitting here, what was it, a couple years ago, and people are like, don't turn moms into a voting bloc, we'll win in a landslide. And then they continued to push this drag queen garbage, and then Trump didn't win? It's because the baseline of what is acceptable, that is openly gay, homoerotic, degenerate, and hedonistic, the baseline is it's up here, it's up to our necks, dude. This is why I call these things out, which is like the calendar gate, the cake gate stuff. It is a bunch of these people who don the agenda are literally simply just liberals in disguise. Like actually St. Clair, I want to go back to 2012. Like that was, what? You know, and so, again, I say this because I am at the point where, especially in my career doing this, I am tired of being lied to. I'm tired of people playing stupid. And I'm tired of people kind of beating around the bush when it comes to like what they truly kind of want, right? And what people really truly kind of want in the Libertarian Party, those who probably voted for the Chase Olivers of the world, they just want things to be, you know, less trans stuff, but the gays are okay. We just not that. Like we can accept, like, and it's not a principled position, right? It's rooted in literally nothing. It's all relative and it's reactionary, if anything. That sect of the Libertarian wing of the Chase Olivers, there was a good plurality of people who voted for Michael Rectenwald. So I'm not going to condemn the entire Libertarian Party, but understand if you're a party and have the convention, you invite out Trump, you have all of this stuff coming out, and then this is the result of it. I mean, it's just a huge slap in the face to anybody who is pushing hard for you, given like the Dave Smiths of the world, given Tim Pool constantly pushing out for this stuff. And it's like someone spit in their mouths. And you have another comment here. It says the obsession of the Libertarian Party with drugs and sexuality has always been suspect. And it's 100% true. I mean, and again, I'm not trying to flame Donnie here or anything. I respect Donnie on a lot of his positions, but he's someone who finds that banning pornography is a bit too far. Why? What God-given right do you have to see other women naked online on an online digital interface? Like, there's nothing to. It's just and then this goes back to the fact that libertarians have literally one tenet, and it is liberty. It is their one core tenet that they believe in. They don't have much of a tenet in things like morality. They don't even have much of a tenet in things like care and fairness. They don't have much of a tenet in things like purity. Liberty is their primary. Albeit that position is relatively better than the progressive woke position, which is burn everything to the ground and turn everyone gay and force you to like it. Like we'll take the libertarians from there. But again, you can't even have the libertarians because now the libertarians have been essentially invaded or hijacked by less progressive wokies. And so it's like, if you're looking at the map right now, you have the establishment uniparty, who is the Republicans, right? Who are literally just half liberals. Then you have the libertarians, druggy party, and then you have the woke left. And then you have people like me who are in the Christian right who get censored nonstop and don't even exist online. That's what we're looking at. Now, what's great though, is at least we still have a solid chance of Donald Trump another 4 more years. But what's terrifying when it comes to this is the fact that there's already been a lot of issues with Trump when it comes to his social policies. And again, he's a New York Democrat. He's never really changed from that spot. He's not someone who's donned the cloak of Christianity, nor really ever spoke truth to it the way that I would wish he did. Now, it's a slight dig to him, and it's no reason to sit here and be like, don't vote for him. But it is one of those things where you do need to pragmatically understand like where the vote needs to go. And then see another comment from James Bond. Yeah, what's up? Oh, what is up, John? What's up, Mo? Haven't seen you in a long time, man. We have to talk soon. When you just see how incestuous this kind of baseline progressive egalitarian stuff is, there's really no escaping it. I mean, I put notes of this all the time. You can see it when it comes to the churches. Even the churches have been bogged down by things like this. So yeah, we even have John in here. He's saying Trump over Biden, though, as sad as that sounds. And that's even taking like the pragmatic stance, right? The pragmatic stance of somebody who just isn't really very involved in politics, as I imagine Mr. Jot here is. And he looks at it and he goes, well, one of these people is literally going to not even make it in the next 4 years. And one of these people is at least can speak sentences. Like, but again, let's go back to libertarian stuff, because we have a bit more with Chase Oliver here. Now I'll pull this back some. So let me go, because I want to show you my entire outline, right? Also, I appreciate you huge for being here, Amo, or Jot, I should say. Thank you very much. He also believes in open borders, and he doesn't believe in free speech. Now look at this. Let me pull this back on screen. What's this? This is your Chase for Liberty. What did he say? He celebrated Donald Trump being banned. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Hashtag accountability. Hashtag this guy wanted Donald Trump eliminated from the running entirely. Yeah, Chase for Liberty, man. These people are wearing the other parties like skin suits. They've invaded it. And to me, I just find it was just sad. It was because it was like, there's maybe a final chance, right? That we can have a third party jump in, that we're going to have a real shot that it's not just between blue or red, that there's a real viable chance that like you can insert a third candidate. He might even get debate time if we come in and we get closer to the election. No, it's actually, the Libertarian Party voted for possibly the worst candidate out of a slate of 9. I would have rather RFK had been picked. And I think some of his positions are insane, especially when it comes to the abortion. Now, I believe he's walked that back since then. Oh, much love to you, John, as well. He's walked some of that back since then. But even he is arguably much more libertarian than whatever this is. This isn't liberty. What libertarian is against free speech? Right? Like, you lose me right here. I couldn't not even see all the homosexual stuff. You lose me right here. That's not libertarian. So what is the connection then? Why does it seem then that there are so many of people who are misaligned and not really in the parties that they should be in? Yeah, it's funny the Libertarian Party's embraced it. I just think it's sad. I mean, yeah, we can laugh at them all we want, because it's really only going to go back down to the 1v1 between the red and the blue. But I mean, come on. And I think, and again, I'll speak to this one more time, which is, you have to understand, like, the reason why it's so chaotic right now is because the left has went so far left. It's just by proxy that anybody who didn't want to go all the way to that extreme is left in the middle holding a bag somewhere, kind of blindly being like, I guess I'm a libertarian, right? Because just by proxy of them just looking at it and being like, okay, I'm not a Biden voter, but I'm not a Trump voter. Like, what am I? And it's kind of broken it apart, where you have a bunch of these liberals who are classical liberals who are still in the party of wanting to push for things like indifference and a one language, and they kind of hold these kind of foundational liberal beliefs, but they aren't progressive in nature. It's just is like, funniest and ironic. You should have said that. It's funny. I mean, no, I can't lie. It's funny because we can sit here and it's another example of being like, this is by the nature of which these ideas happen, and the progressive nature, right? Because progressives, their MO essentially is to get inside of an institution, get inside of a party, get inside of whatever it may be from the inside out, and then bend its will, essentially. It's just this incestuous nature of how these progressive things turn, especially when it comes to like the feminine like sensibilities. And inherently progressive and egalitarian is more matriarchal in nature than it is patriarchal, because it vies on the main tenet of being care and fairness. But again, why? Look at this. What is this? This is the most least libertarian thing I have ever seen. And I'm honestly more shocked that he didn't delete all of this stuff. I think it's insane. Like, he's got some balls, you know? Like, he just left this up. He got voted in and he was like, I don't even care about my tweet history. And now everyone across the earth, including the Tim Pools of the world, the RFKs, everybody, Clint Russell, even disavowing his own party, coming in and being like, nope, hands off. Let me pull this up here. I can't read these that fast. Jot saying, I legit used to be left up into the last four. Oh, let me pull this up. He's Jot saying, I legit used to be left up until the last 4 to 6 years until it's become ignoring issues that are present and trying not to offend people. Like, why the F are you so effing sensitive? There's real issues that need to be tended to. Agreed. We pay taxes. Why should I care if someone in Colorado offends some person for telling them they have the right to use the right bathroom? And here's the thing. You're never going to get the people who are completely anti the gender neutrality to ever go away from those positions. Ever. You know, you're never going to go to a MAGA supporter and be like, hey man, like, just let a guy walk in here with you while you use the bathroom with your daughter. Never going to happen. So it's a dead issue. And John's right here. It's a waste of time. It's a huge waste of time. Just leave it, drop it, right? Like, move on to things that are more important. If the left was an honest movement, but it's not. The left is just entirely subversive. Its whole purpose is essentially to commit sedition against this country in whatever way that can happen. Now, if you're in the Nick Fuentes crowd, you're going to get a little bit different answer than me. I still think that there is some foreign lobbying that's happening that's allowing a lot of this stuff to go on, namely Israel. But this puts me in an odd position, right? Because you have all of the Republicans who are like, no. It's this and this and this and this and this and this, and Israel's our greatest ally. And it's very, very confusing. But again, the thread here being progressivism is entirely subversive to any of the other ideologies. They can't coexist. They are entirely antithetical to each other. But we'll go back to Chase here. And John even saying, at this point, I'll take Trump or someone who might do something. And that's the thing. It's between Trump or Biden. That's essentially what the Libertarian Party did. They forced that. It could have been RFK, who had a little bit of sway, or someone who I highly disagree with. And for two, I don't think it's good that we put another president or person in power who can't speak. It's just like, come on, we need someone who can just speak. Like, if there was one literal thing that the president had to do, it would be to be able to use his verbal skills in a way that other people could understand him. You know, as sad as that is, and it's not a dig on RFK, it's not like he can control that. But I think if there was anything that could kind of disqualify you, it would be your inability to be heard. You know, simple things like that. So let me back out of this here. I don't know why I just zoomed out all the way. So I have a bit more with this. Another thing from Nate. Let's see. Yeah, because Nick Sortor has him actually has it all kind of looped up here. Let me not do that with my screen. Okay, move myself back over here so everybody can see it. We got Jot here saying the left steals money by saying we should be happy, jolly, and here pay attention to this stupid BS. The right might steal too, but at least it's somewhat more transparent. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they're terrible criminals. The right are the worst criminals. They're all criminals, but the right's literally just worse at committing crime. And I'm somebody who is, again, I'm in the dissonant right? Like, I used to call myself Republican, but then I saw what the majority of Republicans were doing, and it's all uniparty establishment. Oh, crap. And they might actually stand up for our country's foreign affairs. It's true. But again, what is going on? Right? Like, again, the main thing comes back to, like, why is the main issue for a lot of these people, and it's Libertarian Party too, the all progressive stuff. And here we have this tweet from Nick Sortor. The Libertarians just nominated Chase Oliver, who has publicly called for transing children, mask and vax mandates, men and women's sports, open borders, and then add to that he also doesn't believe Donald Trump should have the right to speak or should be allowed to even run for president. What do you do about that? None of these are libertarian positions. None of that. Not a single one of these is a libertarian position. So all I can assume is that the libertarians are all just confused. They're not libertarians, they're just liberals. So you have progressives, which is the left, liberals, establishment Israel cucks, and then the dissident right. like here, honestly, like I wonder if I can draw a graph, right? Can I draw a graph here? Can I do? Can I just do this? Is this gonna work? I'm not gonna draw a dog. If you were to have a graph, right? It's like you have Alex Jones.
I see snowflake. Or stitches.
Oh, okay.
Or crayon.
I just wanted to draw
or
it out.
ladder.
But listen, the point being is you have a group now with Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, the Tate brothers. Who am I missing? Sneeko. Oh man, I'm missing a few. I'm missing a bunch. Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. I mean, essentially, everybody who's involved in InfoWars. So that includes Jay Dyer, Harrison Smith, all who are outside of the right, who punch from the right against the Republican Party. What do they all have in common? They get banned and nuked off of every single platform to the point in which they have essentially pulled the wool over people's eyes. You don't even know what the actual right wing is in this country anymore. It is so non-existent. To the point in which the majority of what these battles are when it comes to the virtual or the virtues and ideologies of these things is you have people like Joe Biden calls himself Catholic. Come on, dude. Ain't nothing Catholic at all about that guy. And in fact, he's been publicly like excommunicated because of like the fact that he doesn't participate in the church. I believe even the Pope put statements about that. But then you have people, actually, I have a better one, dude. You have people who were pushing the vax mandate and saying it was like, it's Christian values. It's Christian value to take an experimental injection? Really? I didn't see that in my Bible. I must have missed that, dude. Can you tell me what verse that might be, ma'am? And it's just, again, but it's because Christianity, the same way all these other parties have been subverted against with progressive ideology, it has also been subverted. Christianity, the majority of Protestant denominations in this country, it's the reason why I have a huge amount of respect for the majority of the Muslim countries right now, and the way that they have just essentially just not allowed their social fabric to get annihilated is because they've essentially fought feminism since its inception. They would not allow that whatsoever. Huge respect for them not crumpling on themselves. Do I think it's the right religion? No, but I respect them, and I think that they are just simply just misled. I have nothing against Muslims, but I highly respect the way that they have not allowed their social order to be annihilated from the inside out due to progressive nature of stuff like this. So what does the Protestant churches have in common with the rest of the country? Well, now you have preachers who are women. They're wearing rainbow sashes, and the majority of what their prerogative is indifference. We're a religion of tolerance. We accept everybody, inclusion, diversity, and none of that. Multiculturalism is like, the Bible's anti-multiculturalism. There's a lot of things, that don't connect, that don't make sense, it's just, I'll say it again, poof, fairy tale, not real, doesn't exist. And it's the same thing. It's the subversion at a high scale of pulling the wool over people's eyes and then convincing them that they're right when they're not. We have what in the world saying the only morals the left has is using your own morals against you. And you're right. I mean, you see it with that meme that makes the rounds all the time, right? Which is it's the nerd putting his glasses on and he's like, I'm going to use this argument against you, knowing that it will only work against you because of your beliefs. And it's like, I'm going to put you in a position where you have to be tolerant of my poor behavior and force you in a bad proxy position as a Christian. But what do you know, man? I don't think much is going to change. I don't see any writing on the wall of anything that's going to change, because the harder people push for these Christian positions, the feminists start coming out the woodwork and being like, whoa. We're Christian, but we should still get naked on calendars. And it's like, dude, it's like, what is going on, man? How did we get to these positions? Why are Christians fighting for the ability to be naked online? And then you realize you're like, oh, because it's not Christianity. It's because the real Christianity actually has literally been pushed out of this country and doesn't even exist. In fact, but you can find it in different rare spots. I'm not saying it's non-existent, period. It's not an absolute, but it's hard to find. It's rare. And in fact, That's why you see the majority of these churches and the institutions moving to these non-denominational positions, which is just egalitarian, progressive. They move to these positions where, you know, God is a girl too. And it just shows you that it's across the board, man. It's the baseline for everyone, dude. No one is unaffected in this. No one. The entire Libertarian Party has a "don't step on snake" meme, right? It's one of the coolest flags you can ever fly. And now I would feel embarrassed to fly it because this singular man came in and made a mockery of it. He marched in with progressive policies, and then the Libertarian Party in its worst form, with a bunch of drug-riddled addicts who probably are doing Vyvanse and stuff in the bathrooms while they're cheering on these fat slobs who are degenerates, murder the political party in a single day after Donald Trump and RFK went in there. And in fact, the biggest win about this is it's a win for Trump. All of those people who voted for Michael Rectenwald now are instantly going and voting for Trump. Instantly going and voting for Trump. Like, what? Like I honestly, like, when I'm looking at these positions, Joe Biden might be more moderate than this guy. This Chase Oliver dude here, again, this guy seriously might be more progressive in his positioning than what Joe Biden is. And the Libertarian Party is supposed to be in between the parties? Like Nick Sortor's right. Read that. What a joke. This guy's not getting anywhere close to 3%. So bravo for Trump, man. It's honestly a great thing that he went, because now he kind of probably did make it a lot more feasible for all those people who are now seeing what this guy is and going, okay, I guess I'm conservative this year. Trump train it is, man. And all those people probably say that, you know, with disdain, but they can't vote for this. This is insane. This is crazy. This is no better than voting for a guy that guy wearing a dog mask. It's the same thing. And he's openly gay. Like, this guy is already agendaed, right? It's already agendaed. See, what in the world saying they're gonna need to redo the LGBT flag to add a libertarian stripe? You're right. They'll have to add it right next to the black and brown people that are on the LGBT flag for no reason. No reason. I don't imagine that your average black or brown individual enjoys the fact that they are celebrated alongside all of the colors that mean lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and whatever nonsense it is. This hedonistic lifestyle that we have heralded for whatever reason. But you're 100% right, Will. Fantastic point. They're going to have to add a nice yellow stripe with little black zigzags in it where the snake should be. Exactly the position they're moving to. And I did have a couple other things I wanted to get into. And these are a bit more in the news cycle. So let's move here. This is from Ian Miles Chong. And this is Joe Biden being insane. I'm running out of words to use. Ridiculous, nonsensical, crazy. Listen to this. I'm not even going to read the caption. I don't even need to. It's only 11 seconds long.
Can you imagine if we put any more Republicans on the Supreme Court? No. We will lose all of our rights.
All right. What is this, dude? You'll lose all of our rights? Are you serious? The Roe v. Wade decision happens. It essentially just pushes it back down to the states. And now all of a sudden you can't install another Republican Supreme Court. We're going to all die. Like, dude, how irresponsible is this, dude? But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't, because she had a few quips out of this that were just, maybe she's running the show. Maybe she is the president. Here we have, this is from Chai Rychik. And this is about 1 minute and 30 seconds long. And it says, has Joe Biden ever had a conversation with her husband? The original tweet is from Clown World. Joe Biden's comments on the upcoming presidential debate between Biden and Trump. My husband, you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has. And then you'll see somebody who can't put a sentence together. Like, no, dude, nobody thinks Trump can't put a sentence together. But again, let's watch. Let's hear this out, dude. Let me move myself right in the middle. Okay.
The first presidential debate is
less than
a month away, and we've debated at this table. There have been people that have thought President Biden shouldn't even debate President Trump just due to the fact that Donald Trump will gaslight, he overtalks. Yes. There are no guardrails. So
stalks.
Yeah. Well, I happen to believe it's really important, more than ever, to have a debate with guardrails. What is the strategy that the president has going into this? Any tips you'd have for a debate that we could pull off where we could actually hear our candidates?
No, they've built that in where they're going to turn off those mics so that somebody can't ramble or scream at somebody. Not that my husband would be the one doing that. No. And
because he's almost dead.
That's already been negotiated. And, I think the American people deserve a debate because you need to see your choices. You need to see Trump, and you need to see the president, and you need to see the differences. And my husband's, and you're going to see how smart he is and the experience he has. And then you'll see somebody who, like you're saying, I'm going to use Joy's words, can't put a sentence together, and everything is beautiful, and it's wonderful.
Tremendous. Bigly.
Yeah, tremendous. Yeah. So I think the American people deserve to see the two men who are running for this office, because your choice is going to be clear.
Yeah.
Well,
it is, just not in the way that she's thinking. What I will say is props to her, greatest wife in the world. I'm glad that she didn't stab him in the back. Honestly, that's what she should be doing as a wife. She should be having Joe Biden's back all the way through and through. Now, to the degree in which what they're doing is illegal and committing sedition against this country, I would appreciate her kind of maybe walking him out of the office so we would stop annihilating this country. But again, props to her for being a good wife. She's better than most of the feminists out there, to be honest with you. She's better than Marjorie Taylor Greene. How many affairs has Marjorie Taylor Greene been involved with? Like 8? All with like polyamorous guys online? Again, it's because the right wing isn't truly Christian. It's the right wing is literally, it's just steps of liberalism, right? It's crazy left. Like, oh God, left, and kind of left. And then everyone else is with Nick Fuentes and they're not online. It's just like that's the current way, the current breakdown. At least the way that I see it. Now it doesn't. There's more to this too, right? Which she says that Trump can't put a sentence together. Okay, but I want to go to the article here, and the article here is a little ridiculous. So she says Joe Biden says Trump can't put a sentence together. Calls on votes to choose good over evil in November. Now, this is the part that's extremely like irresponsible, which is like, again, these are people who say like, we're Catholic. We're so Catholic. Right. That way they can say that when they oppose, like when people like Harrison Butker, for example. Oh, Catholics don't believe in that. We don't speak to hate. And it's like, dude, come on. It's not, you're just not a Catholic, dude. You're just lying. Your religion is indifference. Your religion is tolerance. Your religion is whatever that lady said wearing the rainbow in that building. It's not Christianity. It's just a perverse imitation of it. And you just wish that you were trying to hold these ideals. The fact, though, that she said it's a battle of good versus evil is like, ma'am, I hope truly one day that you repent for what you have done and lied about in this country, because I can't imagine, what may possibly be on your hands, given the fact that you do all of this extra glazing for the president and you do all this extra stuff. But to go out on this bend and be so, like, she could have said it in ways where she was just like, I support my husband, like, it's going to be a crazy election coming up, But she's going the whole far other side, which is like, my husband, who can speak better than Joe Biden? Joe Biden says 3 sentences faster than anybody. And, like putting up for challenges that's like, oh my God, please don't ever make him do that. It's just confusing. But it's not confusing if you understand it as like, this is what they're doing because they would like to commit sedition against the country. They would like you to suffer. They would like to continue stealing silverware out of the Titanic as it sinks, essentially, as the allegory goes, or the metaphor goes, I should say. To move off of this, let me close some of these tabs too. I have like 40 tabs open right now because I've been just going through a bunch of this stuff. And again, if anybody didn't see the GameStop breakdown of the stock video, that is in the earlier portion of the stream. You should definitely watch that. For anybody who has no idea how the GameStop situation plays out, or like not understanding how GameStop is bankrupting other hedge funds, like large hedge funds, I covered a phenomenal breakdown from Ian Carroll at the beginning of the stream, or towards the beginning of the stream. So if you want that, definitely watch that. I know it's like the big ticket item and in the title. And I've already covered the Trump stuff at the beginning as well. So the 2 ticket items were already passed. So if you want to see that, it's towards the beginning. Also, A huge shout out to everybody who's here. I appreciate everyone who has chatted in, who is watching currently. It means a lot to me. It always gets me really excited to see people in here. And you can probably see I get a little bit more emotional than I normally do, largely because it's very exciting and I would love to do this. I want to push forward with this, and I would like to make this a career if you so deem me as being fit enough. But to move off of this, right, we're going to go to this insane video, which is You Can Never Forget. So I'm going to pull this up here, and I do need to get a better light for my face. I noticed when I have like the white light from the backdrop of the window, I seem to look better, so I should put like a light like right here. Again, side. We're going to watch this video. And in this video is what reminded me of people who were pushing it, like the journalists who were saying it's a Christian value to get jabbed. This is the COVID Retrospective Series, Volume 1. The title is The Unvaccinated Are Scum. And it's a huge build, like a huge compilation video of never forget. Never forget what these people push. And it's a bunch of them. It's a bunch of different news networks. And it's done really well. But the white pill about this is it has almost 70 million views. Now, obviously, it's on X. Those view count could be a bit smudged. It's not the same, credible view count as what a YouTube view is, especially because this video was posted last year before they changed the way the impressions worked on X and with video views. But regardless, it's about 4 minutes long. And I'm sure it's going to rile people up again because we're going to relive again all of the rhetoric that was being said during COVID. But I think it's important. And I wanted to show this to people so you don't forget, so you know this video exists, so you can keep it. And when somebody asks you like, wow, do you really have to fight against these people this hard? Wow, do you really think it's a battle of good versus evil? You have this video and you go, yes, it is a battle versus good versus evil. If you watch this video and you can't come to that conclusion, then we're just not seeing things the same. But let's watch this.
When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
You are the unvaccinated. You are the problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem, period, end of story.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed, are the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All of us vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me.
Again, I hate to pause it right there, but catch the way that the lady, after she said the Christian values, the next lady, I'll play it back again. She says the sins of the unvaccinated. They're using the language of it's a battle of good versus evil. But man, dude, just listen to this again, dude. Listen to this again.
Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts and running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
Unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom.
Hold on. What did this graph say? Views about unvaccinated. 59% think people like that are putting people like me at risk. 57% of those people said they think that they're being misled by bad information. Almost half of them said that they make them physically angry or upset. And only a quarter of those think that they are respectable in their decision of choosing for themselves. Crazy. Yeah, dude. Whoa, these people are nuts, dude. It is a battle versus good versus evil, dude. We're fighting literal Satanist pedophiles. We're fighting the pedophiles in like the Alex Jones, right? Like this is the battle we're fighting, dude. Like this is where it's at.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No,
Screw your freedom.
The other day, Howard Stern weighed in with a much different approach. Take a look.
When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Their freedom.
But you're treading on our freedom and you're making other people sick, and really you're killing other people.
The anti-vaxxers, they seem to have a thing for death and home remedies.
The anti-maskers turned anti-vaxxers are not just putting their own lives at risk. If that was the issue, we could just say that we can watch them compete to win place or show in the Darwin Awards.
We have to start doing things for the greater good of society and not for idiots who think that they can do their own research.
And don't get me started on the...
You have to be an idiot to think you can do your own research. How ironic, dude. I'm so glad Don Lemon got spanked by Elon Musk, dude. I think my YouTube is doing better than Don Lemon's, just so you know. Not trying to one up or jinx myself, but I think I am.
Lunatics who won't take any of the COVID vaccines.
Life is too short to be an ass. Life is way too short to be ignorant of the promise of something that is helping people worldwide.
Maybe you're doing it because you're disconnected or disorganized. Maybe you have some sympathetic psychological reasons. But maybe you're just being antisocial.
Oh, you can't shame them. You can't call them stupid. You can't call them silly. Yes, they are.
Those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price.
The unvaccinated should be taxed. They should pay more for health care.
We need to start looking at the choice to remain unvaccinated the same as we look at driving while intoxicated.
We're going to see, and I've said, almost two types of America.
Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack, yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo, rest in peace, Wheezy.
Pointing back to the unvaccinated who are really creating a problem in this country, every death that we are seeing from COVID could have been prevented.
Literally, the only people dying are the unvaccinated. And for those of you spreading misinformation, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't know how some of you sleep at night.
Amen, dude. Amen. I wonder how that guy sleeps at night. Wow. I honestly might set an alarm at like 7:05 every single morning, and that video is going to autoplay just so I can wake up with set the table for the day, dude. Who are these people? What do they really think? Because I don't think if you operate in the way that these people literally were trying to actively damage you in a million ways from Sunday with no liability on the back end with what these things might have possibly done, it's just incredible, dude. Evil, man. There's no other words for that, dude. Christian values? What? Christian values? Like, come on, man. It's such a joke. I can't believe people fell for this stuff too, man. And it makes me sad because, and I have to be careful here for what I'm saying because I'm on YouTube, but you've seen the videos. I just like my heart breaks for the people who fell into this trap. It does, truly, man. Like what happens to them? Where do they go? Without being, bucked down by whatever social media platform they're on. Oh, what you said is misinformation. But it's like literally happening to them. They can't even put anything out. They can't get help. They can't find a doctor. I'm just like, my heart goes out to them, truly. I pray to God these people find solace and they find help and they get the help they need, the resolve. And it's the entire reason we need to have a 9/11 commission style on Dr. Fauci and everyone involved in Operation Warp Speed, everything, including Trump too. I will hold no bars with that, dude. That is where the ire needs to be put. And I'll agree with Chris Cuomo on this. This is the Chris Cuomo position. Now, I believe he's taken this position because he's got to start writing some wrongs because of what he was pushing too. He was alongside there with Don Lemon. You didn't see him pushing back. I think he's right. And I think without the right proper justice in this, dude, you will never remove the animosity that currently exists right now. It's so bad. It is so bad, dude. If you truly want to start healing some things, man, and you truly want to make people trust into these institutions, these larger institutions, I should say, you're going to have to be pushing some of this in a way that is getting justice and finding those who committed these egregious errors on American people. You did catch me live. What's up, Blue Perfect? And that's that. That's the only way. I am cooking. I'm always cooking. With this, man, we're going to jump off of this. I have two other crazy stories I want to talk about, okay? Well, actually, I have a shorter one that's going to take like no time at all because I don't think anyone's seen this at all. And I haven't seen much people talking about this, which is, I think it's huge news. This is from the X Daily. Let me move my big head out of the way. The report is the Wall Street Journal has claimed that the Trump campaign is in talks with Elon for him to potentially become an advisor to the second Trump administration on economic and border policies. This right here, I don't know if to take it as fake news or not. Part of me thinks that it's entirely a bogus article and it's being used to push, because the original article is from the Wall Street Journal, okay? Now, this is obviously a tweet from X Daily, so I don't think X Daily would try to do something subversive to Elon Musk, but I would imagine the Wall Street Journal would. Is this in an attempt to get people to change their opinion on Elon Musk? To not view him as like this objective, standalone maverick, and that in fact he's entirely aligned with the Trump movement? Maybe that's their position. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. Maybe this is an attempt to decredit what X has been doing with the free speech and kind of give it more credibility when people are on CNN or MSNBC and they go, it's a right-wing platform that spreads misinformation. I mean, look, Elon Musk is going to be on the Trump campaign, yada, yada. It could be, possibly. Two, if it's real, I think that's going to open up a lot of doors when it comes to like when people are going to evaluate where Elon stands on things, especially because he'll be the first really ever of all these huge social media gurus. I mean, he really is kind of right now, but out of these huge social media gurus that finally goes to the right because Zuckerberg left, obviously, Bezos left, obviously, Bill Gates left, obviously. And he's kind of been so-and-so. He's had some weird ties in China and people kind of question his motives. And he's made some weird hires with Linda Yaccarani with the way that she deals with the sensibilities and the censorship on X. But maybe. Could be real. And then Worrell says, I'm pretty sure Elon and Trump used to hate each other. This is good if true. I don't know too much about their history. I caught this and I didn't see much people talking about it. Let's see where this tweet at right now. Oh, 112,000 views. So it's not even blowing up that crazy. But I mean, yeah, it's something to be paying attention to. I think Elon, the addition of Elon might just like, that's a huge bolster to the campaign. I think is it like worth a VP vote and he gets a voting block out of it? Like, no, I don't think so. But I think it does kind of finalize the teams, right? It finalizes like the team A versus team B. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this hardcore tribalistic nature come as we get closer to the election, during the election, and definitely after the election, regardless of what the verdict may be or who wins the election. With this, though, two crazy stories that are not related whatsoever. We're going to jump off of this too. I'm only going to stream for another 14 minutes, get the 2-hour mark. If I even hit that, I might end this early. First from Timcast News. Colorado police to respond to 911 calls with drones. RoboCop is here. Terminator, whatever you want to say, the Matrix. We are getting very dangerously close to the dystopian society you don't want to be in. So, we look at this article here, if it loads. They are going to respond to 911 calls with drones. Quote here, this really is the future of law enforcement at some point, whether we like it or not. Terrifying, dude, because I really hope not. So it says they're considering using drones to respond to certain 911 calls. Let me make this bigger because you probably cannot read any of this. Okay, that's too big. That's better. And I'll move my big head on the right-hand side so we can all read this. It says, the Denver Police Department has typically resisted using drones, but it's now launching its own program, according to the Denver Post. This really is the future of law enforcement at some point, whether we like it or not. And so Sarah Jeremiah Gates, who leads the drone unit at the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, the city council recently approved steep budget cuts in response to the migrant crisis, which is increased costs for the city. The police department is facing an $8.4 million cut, while the sheriff's office is facing a $4 million cut, or 3.8. The shift to drones could help offset those cuts, allowing police to address certain calls with fewer human personnel. It is going to replace the cops. We already see it with the defunding the police. We're going to switch to RoboCops. When it's shoplifting or burglary or grand larceny, some of these smaller cases, you're not going to get an officer that comes and turns out. You're going to hear a oh, there it is, guys, we're down here. Like, and that's where the cop cars are gonna go. It's crazy. Pooh Perfect saying they want us all to go electric vehicles for a reason, and it's not for sustainability. No, it's not. It provides a lot more control. But the thing is even a lot of these newer gas models in these vehicles, they have kill switches built into them. I think it's essentially every vehicle that's been made from 2014 and on is designed with a kill switch, whether it's electric or not. That's terrifying, dude. Why? Did we vote on this? I mean, maybe it was pushed along with some ridiculous omnibus bill that's stacked in between page 496 and page 497 that no one to this day has ever read because politicians don't even read the bill. Could be. But it goes on. At least 20 Colorado law enforcement agencies use drones for certain things, like searching for missing people, or providing overhead surveillance during SWAT operations. Now, missing people would be a good use of them. Like, I could see that even regardless of the reasoning. But the way they preface this article being like, well, we should really get into drones because we can't have that many officers. And so it's more of a replacement than it is an addition. I think it would be cool to have it as an addition, but it shouldn't entirely outright replace a police force. That is so dystopian, dude. And it's like, could you imagine like you're dying and your last hope is to hope that this stupid drone that gets sent to you like doesn't jam or something happen like that? Like, that's crazy to me, man. And like, I would never want to ever be in that position. We have Pooh Perfect again. I think drones could work better for both parties. Less force and safer tracking. Cons is privacy and potentially massive spying without a warrant. So that's the thing. As I further read into this, most departments have had to go through a process in which that there is a warrant is required. Now, I'm not sure if it was a state case or if it was a federal case, but at least in Ohio, so I'm in Ohio, and I'll take that. You might need to check in your area. They do require a warrant before a drone can begin to surveil, whether it's in someone's home, from the sky, bird's eye view. They are required to get a warrant. So we at least do have that going. But Blue Perfect also says, this is a hit or miss realistically, but it's always abused at some point. It's true. It is true. And it will be abused. We know it will be abused. What reasons we have to believe that it's not going to be abused in whatever way. But this article continues, and that's the thing too. The overhead surveillance, like that would be cool. I mean, that's what we see in Blade Runner, right? You know, he pops the top of his car, and it just like kind of watches his car and does surveillance. Like, that's cool. That's an addition, but that doesn't outright replace an officer. For it to outright replace an officer, you're gonna have to equip it. You're gonna have to armor it. You're gonna have to but then now we have to go into, well, what's the robot's rights? What's the robot allowed to do and what it can't do to a person? And then that opens a huge can of worms that I don't think the current geriatric 95-year-olds who are in Congress should at all be dealing with, dude. Like, we need, no way, dude. This needs to be adjudicated in some way outside of the realm of 75-year-olds touching it, because it's going to be really, really, really rough to get them to understand some of these abstract ideas when it comes to robot rights and providing a Bill of Rights for robots, i.e. essentially when it comes to, can a robot shoot a human? Are we going to permit robots to shoot humans? Who will be charged for, who will be considered the killer of said human, right? Is the robot going to be killer? Is it going to be the person who is operating the robot? So on and so forth. But Hoover also says, I wonder how this works with homes with airspace rights, but I guess warrants counters that. Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine a warrant just blatantly. I mean, if a bench warrant can essentially allow an officer to enter your home, I would imagine a drone warrant would allow you to just essentially, go into someone's airspace. If we hit the robot, do we get a felony? I would imagine. But these are going to be questions, right? Like, it'll probably be charged. Like, it'll be vandalism. Will it be what a destruction of property? Yeah, destruction of public property. And that's I believe. I mean, a lot of times they're just felonies, depending on the level of financial damages. But two, I mean, if it's a robot, I imagine one punch on that thing, it's like you just broke. That's $2,500 right there, dude. To get a bionic armory attached on that thing, that's gonna be really expensive. And so I imagine it would be an automatic felony to do that. Are you allowed to defend yourself against a robot? You are. I think that you should be. You're right to self-defense no matter what. But then I think, what rights are they going to try to give the robots? Right? Because we already currently have an issue right now where the cops are allowed, the special immunity provisions, which essentially allow them, to kill with a badge a lot of the time. And I just find it egregious and disgusting. But if the robots are allowed these same principles and rights, like I think it's going to get very, very dark very, very quickly. But let's continue back to the article. The article says, across the U.S., there are already 1,400 police departments using drones in some way. 1,400. And I imagine they're few and far between. I imagine that there are going to be some of the more nicer ones that have more money to spend. That are the ones that are doing early on. I imagine they'd be the ones that bought maybe a fleet of like 2 or 3 drones to do surveillance or testing with. That number will probably definitely grow, especially given the fact that there are all of these cuts happening to the police force. Drones can be used to surveil the location of an incident and provide live video to responding officers. Drones providing real-time situational awareness early after a 911 call can reduce the number of officers needed to respond to a call. So again, the way this article is framing this thing is like we can do it less with cops and rely more on the robots, less than the robots being an accessory to help progress through whatever means is required for whatever context of the situation is happening, or whatever incident that it may be. In 2022, Colorado officials released a report on a drone program launched a year earlier. The program used drones to investigate fatal and felony crashes. After using remote-controlled drones to investigate 331 scenes, officials determined drone usage saved 168 hours of work, a 56% reduction in on-scene investigation hours. Again, this is framed in what it can do and how it can help there be less police officers present. I think this is the direction it's going to move. And I think you're going to get people who are blindly believers in defunding the police on the left, who would much rather it be a robot without, understanding even the slightest of what that possibly brings about, let alone the abstract, the rights position, but just the fact that they hate probably, I would imagine that they just hate white men so much to a point in which they didn't care what it was, as long as it just wasn't a white male that was approaching them to arrest them. Now, a lot of it, there could be race added to it, but some of it might not even be race. It might even just be by the fact of seeing a masculine man in a police outfit is enough to send trauma responses to people, that they would rather a robot come and march in and pull a hole through your wall because they just have this ridiculous, outlandish position. Possibly, who knows? But again, let's continue. The quote here says, I could fly the drone over a reported suspicious vehicle and say, hey, that vehicle is not out of place. And I never had to send an officer over to bother them, and I can clear it with that. It's saving resources. In another example, Gates explained a drone could be flown to a reported broken traffic light and send video to an operator who would determine if the light is working properly and remedy the issue without sending an officer to the scene. Every single one of these is how we can get it to not have an officer be at the scene. How can the robot replace what the human is doing? We have Kukla in here, and isn't it ironic? It's the exact inverse. It's the jab that are the threats to us. I think you're a little behind, Kukla, but yes, I do agree with you, right? It's kind of wild to think that, especially with the jab question in particular, with what Kukla's saying in the chat, which would be the DNA changing genome, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Insert bannable offense from YouTube here. But the article continues. What if we get a call about someone with a gun and the drone is able to get overhead and see if it's not a gun before law enforcement ever contacts them, he said. This is all, I can get the portion of what it's meaning by when it's saying they want to keep police officers out of harm's way. I get that argument slightly, but I don't understand it given the fact that the fabric of the job is literally being involved in dangerous situations. It's one of my biggest issues with the way that police forces just operate entirely, which is if you know what the job is and you sign and you take the oath, I think that you should sacrifice immunity, because otherwise you should only be in this position if you are capable of making the best decisions that are required. Now, obviously mistakes can happen, but I think that justice would be better served if the mistakes do happen, that the family members aren't the consequential members of said incident or said mistake being made. You got to do away with these things like qualified immunity and so on and so forth, right? You shouldn't allow them to be able to just essentially get away with all of these logistical things. And for one, no cop should be able to turn off their body cam. That is insane to me. But Kukla's saying, me go back up here because I can't read it. Saying, shedding their cooties all over us. Yeah, we don't say a word towards them. We knew it all along. My fear is not what we went through, but that these same mindsets, aka a lower functioning tier, will be doing a rinse and repeat with the next pandemic. They didn't learn a thing. And it's a true possibility. And honestly, speaking of, and so again, terrifying stuff with the drones, but your own point with exactly what you said with is the next pandemic, which it may already possibly be here. So let's go to this. This is again from Timcast News. Oh, let me read this comment here. Well, the drone is remotely controlled and from a live feed. Wouldn't think it's fully automated, would be too expensive for that. However, this drone concept comes from the military and IDF. So it's just gamifying military actions on civilians. And it's a disconnection, right? And you're right on that too, because it's like a hardcore disconnection. And the hardcore disconnection is now like, instead of, you having to actually like be in person, feel the adrenaline, like you're in the moment, you're like, oh, okay. It's not there anymore. I'm piloting it like with like my headset on. It is a game to them, right? It's essentially, you're just playing an FPS. You're playing Call of Duty, but with real people and real stakes. Only the fact that you get to sit in your chair and not even have to worry about it. Terrifying, dude. It really is. But let me go to the next pandemic, which was Kukla's talking about, which is, it may already be here. Timcast News, over 4.2 million egg-laying chickens to be killed in Iowa alone after bird flu is detected at farm. Now, you've probably seen some passing information about the bird flu and its transmissions, and it had a mammal-to-mammal transmission, and then it had a mammal-to-human transmission as a first of any kind, or as a bird-to-human transmission. It's real. And I think because the incident of what happened in 2020 with COVID, I think you're going to have a huge hard split where people are going to not even take this seriously. And it could be. And then you're going to have people dropping like, because of the last way the last pandemic was handled. And so they refuse to do any of the stuff under the presumption that it is a pandemic. And then boom, there's consequences. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but that's a possibility. And we got police drones before GTA 6 is great. I mean, yeah, we did. You ain't wrong. You ain't lying. Wait, I mean, GTA 6 ain't even coming out until the middle of 2025? We still probably have a whole year from like today, right now. We're going to know who the president is before we get GTA 6. I could be wrong, though. I think it's 2025, though. Possibly. I don't know. But the fact is that the governor in this signed the disaster proclamation for CO County effective immediately. And essentially, this disaster proclamation is what is, it's eminent domain essentially, but for animals. And so they're going to march in and they're going to murder all these chickens and wipe them out and prevent it and do it in a way that that can keep things pure and clean and preventable, so on and so forth. But I'm not one to take things at face value. I've seen many other reports of not even just the 4.2 million chickens. I've seen reports of millions of cows in different areas being slaughtered. And if anything, if this is resemblant of what happened, overseas in Europe when they're dealing with famine and people are starving and you have all the crop drop out and you have all the ranchers kind of, struggling to survive. It's a possibility it happens here, man. It's a really possibility it happens here. Not saying it will, not saying you should look for it. I'm just saying right now with this story, the way that it's being reported on and being kind of timidly talked about, it's something to pay attention to. And it's something, especially if it is true that it does have the lethality rate that it does, which is around it's like 30 or 40%. It's like, you will have to take it serious regardless. It'll have to be like those first 15 days in COVID. It doesn't matter how much you think they're lying. It's like, you have to at least trust, but verify, right? So trust initially, just with the loose trust of okay, they're saying this thing is out here, look for it, and then try to verify if what is they're saying is true. If not, act accordingly. If it is, act accordingly. So on and so forth. And then Pluperfect says, support your local farmers and butchers, free range. The bird flu happens in closed confinement, right? I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I know that there has been multiple reports of, I believe even in Ohio, there was a report of a bird to mammal transmission. There was also a mammal to human transmission that happened. But I believe there's only been one incident of that, and I think he was doing something weird with the cows. So it's like you have to like check into like fact check me on that. I haven't covered that in any depth, in any kind of way. If it happens here, I'm dipping the States. I mean, that's the thing is I think it's already global. I think there's already been reports of the bird flu in other areas. So like I don't know where you would be able to. I mean, you try. I mean, I might as well. What other choice do you got? If every other state's got bird flu, like you might as well bail out and figure out what you can do. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here, though, guys. I started this a little bit later than I wanted to. If I had started it at 6, I probably would have gone for 3 hours. But I do have to get ready. I have a funeral tomorrow for my grandmother. I'm gonna have to finish out the little note that I wrote for that because I'm gonna be speaking at that and being a pallbearer and all that too. It's going to be a stressful day for me tomorrow because I'm going to have to do that early in the morning. And I'm going to, hopefully for your guys' sake, I'm going to try to get up at 6 a.m. Hopefully this live stream will be able to be downloaded. And then I will pull those clips from there, edit those, upload those, try to find a good short out of this that I can make too. And then keep pushing for the content because I broke out of the YouTube algorithm finally. Like it just, Lord, thank you. It was a huge blessing. I literally was at 740 some subscribers for about 8 months. I finally broke out of that, and now my videos are getting views again. I don't know what I did. I don't know what I said. I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't make no favors. Nothing. And now I'm getting views again. Like literally my two recent, but 2 of my 3 last recent have all hit over 1,000, and then my shorts are getting into the hundreds of views. The last 3 I've posted all into the hundreds of views. So huge blessing for that. I'm not going to take it for granted. So I'm going to keep working hard at that, keeping consistent with the scheduling and stuff. Again, only 2 announcements. Saturday, me and Worrell are collabing on an episode together. So Saturday, the time is still to be decided. You'll see an update from me somewhere, whether it's on X or another live stream later in the week before we get to that point with that. The second thing, too, is another reminder. River, who is the police officer I had originally on this podcast months ago at this point with Donnie, he will be making a return on next Tuesday. We'll be talking and catching up with what he thinks and what he's seeing inside the academy. And in fact, I'm going to talk about this drone stuff with him too, because I'm curious to know if there's any kind of drone things happening, what's going on there. And outside of that, I think there's one other thing I was meaning to say. Let me look at my outline. I think I was going to say something else. Oh, and again, I said this at the beginning. I did talk to Donnie. For anybody who was concerned or has been following Donnie as well, Donnie is okay. He just went off the grid. He just didn't tell me. He spent like a week and a half out by a lake in a cabin somewhere with his family. He's totally fine. Don't know if he's coming back to the show or not yet. He said that he wants to get off of his phone and spend more time with his family. So it could be a while before we see him. But we see here, she's sorry for your loss. Good stream. Glad I caught some of it. I'll subscribe on my other YouTube account. All the best. No blood sacrifices. We need to get past the 49. Let's go. Yes, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. And it was super unfortunate too, because it was one of those where it was just kind of like, it just had a feeling and multiple trips to the hospital back to back to back. Things weren't kind of boding well. It was okay for a bit, not okay for a bit. And so, but I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. If you can have my Discord link, it doesn't work anymore. I thank you for that. I would do that actually. I would do that right now. Let me do that before I leave you guys. I know why it is. I know why it's like that. Me and Donnie actually, we started putting a bunch of content in one specific chat. I privated that because he was putting a lot of personal information in that, and that's why I privated it, because I forgot that it was all public. So I privated that so people could just like jump in there. I have a new open channel though, and you're going to see me and the Worrell's information so far. You might even have access to our outline early on. Let me invite though. I'll put this in the video chat right now. I can find the button. Oh my gosh, how do I invite somebody into the server? Oh, forgive me. It's been a hot minute since I've done this on Discord. I am just a little slow. Invite people. There we go. Man. Hit use copy button. Copied. Okay, I'm putting it right here into the chat here. Also, I'm glad you caught the stream too. It's huge. This has been one of the better streams I've had. It might honestly be the best stream given the chat rate and everything going on. I appreciate it. Huge. It's you guys. Yeah. Okay, sending this out. Hopefully that works. If it does not, get a hold of me on X or comment on the stream afterwards, after the fact, at me even, so I can see the mention, the hardcore one. That one should work. And we'll take in everybody too. This is you're gonna just see what me and the Worrell are talking about. But he's open. He's in the Discord now. We're trying to grow this up in the community too. Though the big thing I do want to say with this too, for anybody who does join the Discord, if you see things that you haven't seen me cover or I'm talking about, please feel free to put them in the message board. Like, let me be the vessel. Anything that you see that's crazy, catching your attention that you think I haven't seen yet, I would love to see it. Even if it's crazy, funny things too, like anything, any kind of like any content, right? Like put it in the Discord as well. I would love to go through it too, because I would like to align myself closer to where my audience is at with what the audience kind of views a bit more in terms of what their prerogatives are. I'll still obviously have my views and my ideals, but if the closer I can align it with who the community is, who supports me and stuff, I would appreciate that. That way it can be a bit more synonymous, and that way you're tuning into stuff you actually want to be seeing from me. So again, I appreciate everybody who has been here tonight. Thank you so much. Christ is King. God bless. Please take care of yourselves. Please keep your head in the news. Be vigilant. And let's just pray that we get out of this. All right. So the closer we get to November, the more crazy it's going to get. You know how every election year works. Hopefully this has been accurate, and if it's been more offensive than accurate, we did a good job. Take care. Peace out. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you later this week. Peace out.